Available now on a 2-disc Ultimate Edition Blu-ray from the MVD Marquee collection is ANVIL, the Story of ANVIL. This is from 2008. This is a documentary I saw in the theater when it was new, and it made some sort of waves when it came out because it's, well, let me tell you, it's this documentary about a Canadian rock band, ANVIL, that's been around since these guys met when they were 14, and they wanted to just make it big and as a metal band, and they had some success in the early 80s, and then that success just eluded them. They never really made it to the top. The film opens with this footage of ANVIL playing at this big rock fest in Japan, I think in '82, and every band on the bill except them went on to be like iconic. So it's a portrait of these two guys who are still working at it. One of the guys, Steve Kudlow, is he works in the food industry, delivering food to like schools and things like this in Canada where they're from. And Robb Reiner, not that Robb Reiner, the drummer in the band, is does like handyman stuff or I was gonna say housework, not housework. He does renovation and things like that. But they still go out and they play gigs. They play gigs in local clubs and they occasionally tour. But they're a band that never made it big. And this film is about them trying to make it big, and it's a very interesting backstory to this too. The Sacha Gervasi, who's the director of this film, was a big fan of ANVIL, saw them live in England in the early 80s, toured with them in the early 80s as like a roadie for them, and then years later went on to make it big as a screenwriter in Hollywood and decided he wanted to do a documentary about his old friends in ANVIL. And it's just wonderful. People often have compared this to like a real-life Spinal Tap, and it kind of feels like that because it's these two guys who are just striving for decades for the dream. And Steve Kudlow is Lips, the singer, guitar player. He's just so pure. He's got a great attitude. He's a very positive kind of guy for the most part, and just believes that they're good and they're going to make it one day. They just need the right chance, they need the right people to hear them, and they can, you know, get a record deal and get back where they should have been years ago. So the film follows them through misadventures, through tours that don't quite go very well, and opportunities that look like they're going to be big and maybe may not turn out to be so big. And all the while they're still making new music, they're still trying to make it, and will they or won't they, I guess, is the question that you get from the documentary. But even while you watch it, you really want these guys to do well. You want these guys to make it because they're good, and they don't give up. And that's really the message of the film, is that don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop going after your dream. Even if you don't get where you think you should be, you're going to make people happy. This film is filled with testimonials from people like Lars Ulrich and Slash and Lemmy from Motorhead about how great ANVIL is and was and how influential they were on them. And even if these guys were not going to be superstars, they did make an impact on people who did become superstars. So you have the documentary, which runs about 80 minutes. This is apparently has been remastered. It's like a 15th anniversary edition. I believe it was also maybe briefly re-released in theaters. You have, it's improved image and sound from the original release, and loaded with extras. Like, I usually will watch the extras so I can talk to you about them. When I saw the amount of extras on here, I was like, 6 commentaries. Does this film is there 6 commentaries worth of things to say about this film? And the answer is, for the most part, yes. So I watched all of it. Every little bit I watched on this. So I'm gonna tell you the majority of what I'm gonna talk about from now on to the end of this is what's on this. If you're a fan of ANVIL, if you've got the previous DVD release, I believe this is the Blu-ray debut of this film. Is this worth getting? The short answer is yes. It's a wonderful film. I had forgotten how great this is. This is, I guess Scorsese eventually was able to communicate to the director that this was like his favorite rock documentary of all time. And I have to say, it's up there for me too. Not that my opinion, you know. Scorsese likes it, but guess what? So do I. I'm reading from my notes here because there's a lot on here. You have, on disc 1 is the main feature, and you have a commentary by the director. And when I say the band, from here on out, it's the 2 main guys in the band who have been in the band the whole time. You got a commentary with those guys that was recorded right before the film was going to get released back in 2008. You have a commentary by the director and the producer and editor, I believe. You have a commentary by the director alone, which is a more recent look back, 15 years later or 13 years later, something like that, looking back on the making of the film, how the film got released, and the impact it had on these guys. Then you have, and also it's available in 5.0 or 2.0 surround sound, and you have 15 minutes of deleted scenes. Then you have interviews. This is still disc one. You have a half hour, the full half hour they did with Lars Ulrich. It's the complete unedited recording. You've got a Where Are They Now with past band members. That's about 3 minutes long. You've got another featurette that's 12 minutes. You've got an interview with, I wasn't quite sure, it's Mayor Applebaum. I'm not sure who this is. I think he's a rocker from Israel who talks about, both of the guys in ANVIL, the main guys are Jewish, and that comes into play a little bit in the backstory of the family of Robb Reiner and some other things. So they talk a little bit about that with Mr. Applebaum. That's 16 minutes. You've got a backstage interview with Steve Kudlow. It's mislabeled. A couple of these are mislabeled on the menu as 1981. They're not. They're much more recent, where I think it's them backstage getting ready to open for Motorhead, if I may be incorrect. And then it's a Steve and Robb backstage. So it's one with Steve by himself, it's 8 minutes, and there's one with Steve and Robb together, it's 4 minutes. Then you have disc two, you have an interview with the band and the director done by Matt Pinfield, which is from just last year. That is a 93-minute interview, and it's very interesting because, again, they talk about the making of the film, aspects of the film, their whole career, and what has happened to them since then. And it's really interesting. It's cool to see the guys now. It's cool to see them, but I don't want to give away it's cool to see them in the condition they are now. And it's a really, Steve Kudlow is such a positive, inspiring guy. Like, he gets teary-eyed talking about, damn near looking into the camera saying, don't give up on your dream. Even if we weren't a huge success, we are a success. And it's all the steps on this road are worth it. Very inspirational. You've got a Rich Roll video podcast interview with the director and the band. That's 2 hours and 11 minutes. You've got a picture-in-picture video commentary. This is the band and the director. This is the same commentary from just before the movie came out that's on the first disc as audio only. This is the same thing, but you see a little window right down there somewhere of the guys recording it. So if you wanted to see what they looked like while they were recording it, you've got that, but it is the same thing that's on the other disc. My recommendation would be to watch, if you're going to watch one or the two, watch the picture-in-picture because it's the same content. You still see the movie, but you can see the guys too. You get a video commentary with the director and the band. That's like done via Zoom. So you get the guys in squares and the film playing off to the side. That was done recently. So again, it's the guys looking back at the film. And then you get a video commentary with the director and producer. That was also done very recently. And in that version, you don't see the movie, you just see the participants, which is fine, because by this point, you've probably watched the movie a couple times, or you've been in the presence of the movie a couple times, and you really know what part it's on. So it's a great release. This is a really, really good addition. Again, rare occasion. I say that rare occasion, I do it all the time now, but that's the disc, and you get a slip case, and inside that slip case is the cover. You get a little mini poster of ANVIL. You get your two discs, and you get, I don't know if you can see this here, but it is kind of cool. It's a picture of the guys then and a picture of the guys now, and the cover is reversible too. So you can see the original cover, or you can see a cover with the guys glare as they are now. If you're a fan of ANVIL, this is something you do not want to miss. If you're not a fan of ANVIL, dare I say, this is going to make you a fan of ANVIL because the guys are just so cool. And you hear enough of the music that if you're into metal, it ain't bad. So ANVIL are still out there. They're still touring. Apparently they did a thing for a while called the ANVIL Experience, where you could go see them live, and then they would play the movie and then the band would play live, which is pretty cool. And I highly, highly recommend this disc. It's an excellent release of an excellent film. The supplements, to get back to the question I had earlier, after a while, you do hear some stories a few times. So which is inevitable because they're often telling a fresh interviewer the story of how it all came to be. So by the time I got to that last commentary, that last video commentary with the band and the director, I felt like I had kind of heard most of that already, but I don't know how many people are going to do what I did and really just barrel through sequentially all of this stuff. But it's a great release. It's the kind of release you wish every movie you liked would get. And my highest recommendation, the MVD Marquee Collection Blu-ray release of ANVIL, The Story of ANVIL.